Welcome to Twisted Truths, where betrayal meets brutal payback, and where the most unexpected twists expose what people are really capable of. This story isn't just shocking, it's personal. My name is Caleb Royce. I'm 33 years old, and until a few months ago, I thought I understood the worst life could throw at me. I was wrong. I remember the moment like a scar on my soul. I was sitting in a sterile office at St. Anthony's Medical Center in Spokane, staring blankly as Dr. Mendelsohn said the word lymphoma. Stage 2. Aggressive. Treatable but no promises. She laid out a schedule of treatments and potential outcomes while I sat still, the edges of her words blurring as if they were underwater. It didn't feel real. Not until I walked to my car, sat behind the wheel and called my wife, Camille. My whole world. The woman I'd built a life with, a future with. I told her, voice cracking, "I need you home. We need to talk." She said she had errands to run. I waited for her anyway. But when I got home, something was off. The closet door was slightly ajar, and half of her clothes were missing. The wedding photo from our honeymoon in Santorini, the one that always sat on her nightstand, was gone. Then came the text. I didn't sign up for this. Just 5 words, but they detonated like a grenade inside me. Attached was a screenshot of our joint savings account, emptied. All $41,000 we'd built together over 7 years gone. And she was gone too. No phone call. No explanation. No support. Just a message as cold as the hospital exam table I'd sat on that morning. I typed 2 words back, understood. Then I opened a beer, sat on the porch and watched the sun fall behind the pine trees, numb and hollow. Tim, my neighbor, came by a few minutes later. He saw something in my eyes, something broken. He asked if everything was okay. Just got some medical news, I said quietly. He didn't pry. Just offered a casserole from his wife and a silent nod. We're here if you need anything. I couldn't eat. Couldn't sleep. The next morning I sat in my garage, staring at the '72 Chevelle SS I'd been restoring with my dad's old tools. My hands should have been busy with the carburetor. Instead, they shook as I held the letter from the oncologist in one hand and Camille's text in the other. That was when I remembered what my Uncle Wade once told me: when people show you who they are, believe them the first time. Camille and I met in 2015 at a friend's bonfire. She was magnetic, sharp, charming, full of life. A paralegal by trade, a perfectionist by nature. I was head mechanic at Sanders Automotive, a guy with grease on his hands but ambition in his heart. We moved in together 6 months after we met. Married within a year. She picked the color scheme for our wedding. I rebuilt the engine of the old Ford truck we drove away in. We were the perfect team, or so I thought. Looking back, I can trace the cracks to the last 2 years. Her restlessness. The way she stopped coming to car shows with me. The quiet sighs when I mentioned wanting to stay in Spokane. And then the jealousy. Not mine, hers. Of the wives of lawyers and executives. Of her sister's new home in Seattle. Of vacations we couldn't afford because I insisted we save. But I thought we were in this together. The day after Camille left, I called my sister Morgan. Told her everything, except for the part where I was falling apart inside. She wanted to drive up immediately, but I asked her to wait. I wasn't ready for comfort. Not yet. That night, I opened a locked drawer in my desk and pulled out a folder my uncle had helped me set up 6 months earlier, before I knew my body was a battlefield. It had all the legal papers for our house, the car, and the plot of land up north my grandfather had left me. I'd started transferring Camille's name onto everything. But I hadn't finished. That folder saved my life in more ways than one. I began treatment alone. Chemo hit me harder than I ever imagined. First session, I could barely keep my eyes open afterward. I threw up in the clinic bathroom and Ubered home shaking and pale. My bones ached like they were splitting apart from the inside. I sat on the floor of my living room and cried. Not because of the cancer. But because the woman who said she'd love me in sickness and in health had chosen neither. The worst wasn't the cancer. It was the silence. Camille didn't call. Didn't check in. Just sent another email from her lawyer 2 weeks later. She wanted a divorce. Half the house. Ignored the missing $41,000 as if it were pocket change. But that's when something in me began to shift. Not rage. Not bitterness. Clarity. She thought I was weak now. Vulnerable. She believed she'd hit me when I was down and I'd never get back up. She had no idea what I was capable of. The second time I sat in that chemotherapy chair, I didn't cry. I didn't tremble when the nurse inserted the 4. I stared straight ahead and made a decision. If Camille was willing to destroy everything we built the moment things got hard, then she never deserved any part of what I was building next. She wanted to vanish with my savings? Then I'd make sure that was the last thing she ever stole from me. I called my Uncle Wade, retired estate planner, sharp as ever in his late 60s. He came over that afternoon, bringing his usual no-nonsense attitude and a binder full of documents. "You kept her name off the land title, right?" he asked. I nodded. "She ever file the Mustang title with the DMV?" "No. I gave her the paperwork but didn't send it in." Wade gave me a tight smile. "Then you've still got leverage. Good. Now listen to me, Caleb. You don't go to war while you're bleeding. First, you stop the bleeding." He laid out a plan. Step 1. Transfer every asset into new legal shelters. Trusts, LLCs, asset protection moves Camille's lawyer wouldn't expect from a grease-stained mechanic. Step 2. Start documenting everything. Every bank transaction. Every text. Every change in ownership. Build a case slowly, methodically, like rebuilding a transmission, gear by gear. Step 3. Let her make the next move. Because when people think they've already won, they get sloppy. While I was fighting for my life in a cancer ward, Camille was flaunting her freedom on social media. Drinks with girlfriends, smiling selfies in Seattle, captions like, "New beginnings. No regrets." Meanwhile, I was vomiting into a trash can between oil changes at the shop because I refused to stop working. My boss offered me time off, but I needed normalcy. I needed noise, movement, the smell of motor oil to remind me I was still alive. And I needed money. Because Camille hadn't just taken our savings. She'd also run up one of our joint credit cards to pay for a down payment on a luxury apartment in Bellevue. How did I know? Because I called the bank and had every transaction flagged. Hair appointments. Boutique furniture. A massage membership. She'd used our joint emergency card like it was a game show prize. By the time her lawyer sent a second letter, demanding amicable division of property, I'd already opened a new trust account in my name only and moved the land into it. The Mustang was officially retitled to just me. And I'd installed a hidden GPS in case she tried to take it. I was ahead of her. And she had no idea. But then the game changed. I got a call from a woman named Elise, Camille's cousin. We hadn't spoken much during the marriage, but I always liked her. She was quieter than Camille, more grounded. "Caleb," she said hesitantly, I feel like I need to tell you something. Camille's been saying some awful things about you. That you manipulated her. That you faked how bad the cancer is to guilt her into staying." I blinked. "Excuse me?" "She told our family you've been exaggerating your illness, and that you threatened to ruin her life if she left." I sat down on the steps of my porch, phone pressed tightly to my ear. "Elise, I have stage 2 lymphoma. You can't fake chemo-induced hair loss." "I know. That's why I'm calling." I don't believe her. Neither does Aunt Joan. But the rest? They're eating it up. My hands curled into fists. Camille wasn't just stealing money now. She was trying to steal the narrative. Make herself the victim. That's when I knew this wasn't just about divorce or assets anymore. This was about character assassination. Wade and I met again that weekend. I showed him the message Elise sent as backup. "Let her talk," he said. "Let her lie. The more public it is, the better." Why? Because it gives us motive. If we end up in court and we show she's telling people you're faking cancer while draining your accounts and trying to seize your property, the judge will see through her. He leaned forward. "But you need a witness. Someone not blood. Someone who saw the fallout in real time." I remembered Tim next door. He saw her leave. Heard the conversation. So I asked him. He agreed to testify if needed. Lisa, his wife too. They'd seen Camille drive off with packed bags the same day I told her I had cancer. Camille thought she'd left a sick man to die quietly. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't dying. I was evolving. Every painful dose of chemo, every bank call, every asset transfer, every sleepless night, I was learning. Becoming the man she never expected I could be. Not just a mechanic. A survivor. A strategist. A man with nothing left to lose. Then came the moment I'd been waiting for. Her lawyer filed for divorce officially, citing irreconcilable differences. Camille requested half the house, half of all retirement funds, and a fair settlement from any inheritance. She didn't know that I'd already sold the land 2 weeks earlier, and funneled the $74,000 profit into a trust she couldn't touch. She also didn't know I'd consulted with a litigation attorney who specialized in medical abandonment and marital fraud. It was time to move from defense to offense. By the time Camille's lawyer tried to call a settlement meeting, I wasn't the man who'd stared blankly at a text saying, "I didn't sign up for this." That version of me had died sometime around my second round of chemo and the first overdraft notice on our account. The man they were dealing with now? He'd been reborn in fire. Mr. Royce, the opposing lawyer started on our Zoom call, my client wants this divorce resolved amicably. Surely you do too, given your condition. Condition. As if I had a mild rash. As if chemo hadn't burned through my body like acid. As if this wasn't a woman who emptied our bank account the very same day I told her I had cancer. I didn't say a word. My attorney, Jillian Ross, smiled sweetly on camera. Your client left a man the day of his diagnosis, emptied a joint account, attempted to manipulate shared assets, and is now claiming amicable because she thinks he's too sick to fight back. The other lawyer shifted in his seat. Camille, sitting next to him with her perfectly highlighted hair and oversized pearl earrings, spoke for the first time. Caleb, I know things ended badly, but I didn't steal from you. I just took what I needed to start over. My stomach turned. You don't need $41,000 to start over. You need honesty, courage, decency. All things she'd thrown away the moment the diagnosis landed. I finally spoke. Did you tell your family I was faking it? She flinched. Did you? Camille's lawyer tried to interrupt, but I cut him off. Because I have hospital documentation, treatment records, witness statements, and if this goes to court, Elise is willing to testify that you told your relatives I was manipulating you. Her face went pale. This isn't what I wanted, she murmured. No. What she wanted was to leave quietly with everything of value while I fought for my life. What she got was a reckoning. After the meeting ended with no agreement, Jillian turned to me. She'll either settle quietly in a few days, or come back swinging. You ready for either? I nodded. Let her swing. Camille chose to swing. 2 days later, I got a certified letter stating she intended to sue for emotional distress due to my manipulative behavior during our marriage. She claimed I had withheld the severity of my illness to guilt her into staying. I laughed out loud when I read it. She didn't realize that I'd kept everything. Voicemails where she said she'd run errands, instead of meeting after my diagnosis. The time-stamped transfer of our savings, just 42 minutes after I left the oncology ward. Her original text, I didn't sign up for this. And best of all, my sister Morgan had recorded a call with Camille 2 weeks after she left, where Camille bragged about dodging a bullet and saying, I refuse to be stuck wiping puke off a man who fixes cars for a living. Yeah, real compassionate. Morgan hadn't meant to record it for evidence. She was in tears after the call and hit the voice memo app out of instinct. But it was legal in Washington state. And Jillian was very happy to receive that file. Around that time, something strange started happening. Vanessa, Camille's best friend from work, the one who used to come to our BBQs and pretend to like my cornbread, messaged me out of the blue. Hey Caleb, I just want you to know. Camille's lawyer might be pushing this hard, but not all of us agree with her. Some of us know the truth. I stared at her message, debating whether to respond. Eventually I did. Appreciate it. I've been alone in this longer than you know. Vanessa replied, You're not anymore. You're not the only one she used. And just like that, another crack appeared in Camille's carefully curated facade. She had burned more bridges than she realized. 3 days later, Vanessa sent me screenshots, Camille bragging in a group chat about taking the money, saying I'd be too weak and too broke to fight her. She even used laughing emojis. Dude, Vanessa wrote, I know this is dirty, but you need to see what she's really like. That was all I needed. Jillian filed a countersuit. Financial fraud. Intentional infliction of emotional distress. And a restraining order against any attempts by Camille or her family to contact me during treatment. Camille's lawyer responded by requesting a meeting to resolve things quickly. Of course he did. They were panicking now. The meeting was scheduled for the following Monday. That weekend, I shaved the last of my thinning hair, put on a blazer that still barely fit, and printed out a picture of Camille's text, a copy of the joint account transfer, the recording transcript, and Vanessa's screenshots. Then I sat down and wrote something that wasn't legal or tactical. It was personal. A letter to Camille. 3 pages long. Telling her everything I never got to say the day she left. When Monday came, Camille walked in like she was still in control. She wasn't. Jillian presented our evidence. Laid it out on the table like a loaded weapon. I watched Camille's face as the screenshots came up. Her mouth twitched. Her eyes darted. Then Jillian handed her my letter. Camille's hand trembled slightly as she opened it. I didn't watch her read it. I just looked at the floor. Because I wasn't here for her anymore. I was here for closure. For myself. I'll never forget the silence in that conference room. Camille had just finished reading my letter. The last page trembled in her hands. Her eyes glistened, but not with remorse. No, Camille didn't do remorse. It was recognition. Recognition that everything she thought she'd get away with was now a paper trail, a witness list, and a sworn affidavit away from full exposure. Jillian didn't let the silence stretch. "We're prepared to go to court," she said calmly. "But in the interest of sparing Mr. Royce unnecessary stress during medical treatment, we are willing to entertain a full financial settlement. One-time payment. No spousal support. You walk away with nothing but your name. Or, we pursue charges." Camille opened her mouth, but her lawyer raised a hand before she could speak. "We need time to consider this." "No," I said, my voice low but firm. "We don't. You have 48 hours. After that, we file. Publicly." Camille's lawyer nodded. He knew what this meant. There would be no clean exit for her now. After the meeting, I went home and sat on my porch. For the first time since my diagnosis, I let myself feel everything. The betrayal. The humiliation. The loneliness. But also, oddly, clarity. I realized something brutal and beautiful. Camille thought I was the weak one. But I had outlasted cancer, chemotherapy, and her. 2 days later, Camille's lawyer sent a proposal. She would forfeit all claims to the house, car, land, and retirement funds in exchange for non-disclosure of the screenshots and recordings. She agreed to return $25,000 of the $41,000 she stole, to be paid in monthly installments over 2 years. We rejected it. She came back with $30,000 and full asset surrender. Still not enough. I told Jillian I didn't want her installment plan. I didn't want her name anywhere near my bank account. "I want it all," I said. "In full. Within 30 days. Or we go scorched earth." Then something happened that neither of us expected. Camille's father called me directly. "Caleb," he said, "you're a good man. But this is going too far." I laughed. "Too far? After what your daughter did?" "She's struggling. She's scheming. And I'm done playing nice." He sighed. "We'll send the money." That's when I knew he'd seen the evidence. And realized Camille hadn't just destroyed her marriage, she'd endangered his name, his career. They'd pay up. Not for me. For themselves. The check arrived 7 days later. Certified. $41,000. In full. No letter. No apology. Just numbers. But I didn't need her apology. I had something better. I had myself back. Jillian filed the divorce paperwork that same week. In the final agreement, Camille relinquished all rights to my assets, including the house, land, and my retirement. She also agreed to a clause stating she could never seek spousal support or future division of property, even if my health changed. And then we added one last clause. Any violation of the agreement would result in immediate legal action, including public release of documented evidence. Poetic, really? She walked out on a sick man thinking he had no fight left. Instead, she walked straight into a trap she built herself. When the divorce was finalized, I didn't celebrate. I just got in my truck, drove out to the edge of the property my grandfather left me, and stood under the pine trees, breathing in the sharp scent of cold earth. This land was mine now. So was my freedom. So was the truth. That night, I got a message from Vanessa, Camille's ex-best friend. I heard she settled. Good. You deserved better. I'm glad you stood up for yourself. I didn't respond right away. I let it sit. Then I typed. Funny how fast masks fall when life gets real. She replied. Yeah. Some people break. Others reveal who they really were all along. I was done chasing closure from people who'd never offer it. But I wasn't done healing. That was just beginning. The day the divorce was finalized, I didn't feel relief. I felt hollow. There was no parade, no triumphant soundtrack. Just a plain white envelope from the courthouse with a single piece of paper that said, "You're free now." But freedom, as I quickly learned, comes with echoes. Echoes of everything you thought would last forever. And the sickest part? Sometimes you still miss the person who destroyed you. The chemo treatments continued. Round after round. I shaved my head completely now, there wasn't much left anyway, and focused on one goal: get better. Stay better. My sister Morgan visited every other week. Tim and Lisa from next door checked on me daily. Even my boss, Darren, kept my part-time hours flexible, letting me work on engines when I had the strength. It was the closest thing I had to peace. And yet, every time my phone buzzed, I flinched. Because I knew it would come. The message. The regret. It came one Thursday evening while I was changing the oil on a customer's 2006 Impala. My phone buzzed from the tool cart and I saw the name. Camille. New number. Of course. I stared at it for a long time before opening the message. I heard the divorce is final. I know you probably hate me. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. I made a mistake. I was scared. I wasn't ready for that kind of pain. I hope you're okay. I stared at it until the phone screen dimmed. Then I typed back. I survived. You don't get to rewrite the story now. Blocked the number. Went back to work. I didn't need her guilt. I needed progress. Every morning I woke up, checked my blood pressure, took my meds, and walked 5 laps around the neighborhood, even when my legs shook. Every afternoon I wrote down one reason I was glad to still be here. Some days it was stupid stuff. Like, I saw a hawk today. Or, Lisa brought cinnamon rolls. But it helped. I wasn't surviving for revenge anymore. I was surviving for me. Then, a month after the divorce, I got the call that changed everything. Caleb Royce. This is Dr. Hanley at St. Anthony's. Your scan results are in. I held my breath. Silence. Then, you're in remission. I sank to the floor of my kitchen. For the first time in months, I wept. Not from pain. Not from betrayal. From the sheer, overwhelming weight of hope. That night, I sat on my back porch and watched the stars come out. The sky felt bigger than it had in a long time. I called Morgan first. She cried harder than I did. Then I called Joel, my best friend from Montana, who'd been begging me for years to come join his custom shop in Missoula. You still want that mechanic job? I asked. Hell yes, I do. When can you get here? A month later, I sold the house. Used part of the money to pay off my medical bills. Used the rest to buy a small 2-bedroom cabin outside Missoula with a detached garage, perfect for working on cars and keeping my distance from the world. The land from my grandfather? Still mine. I kept it as a backup. Just in case. The Mustang? Never sold it. Instead, I rebuilt it piece by piece with my own hands, alone in my new garage listening to Springsteen and smelling gasoline. It became a symbol. Not of pain. But of what survives when everything else burns. 3 months into my new life, I was standing at the counter of a small cafe in town, picking up black coffee when someone tapped me on the shoulder. It was Vanessa, Camille's old best friend. She looked nervous, but her eyes were kind. I heard you moved here, she said. I'm not stalking, I swear. I just wanted to say hi. We talked for 10 minutes outside the cafe. She told me she'd left the firm she and Camille worked at. That after everything that happened, she couldn't stay. Couldn't pretend Camille was someone she wasn't. I saw the way you fought, Caleb, she said. You didn't just survive. You won. I smiled for real this time. Because she was right. I didn't win by destroying Camille. I won by refusing to let her destroy me. By the time fall rolled into Montana and the mountains turned gold and red, I finally felt steady. Not happy, not whole, not yet. But steady. I had a rhythm. Mornings in the shop, afternoons with customers, evenings on my porch with black coffee and silence. Peace wasn't loud. It didn't knock on the door. It slipped in quietly when I wasn't looking. I wasn't waiting for the other shoe to drop anymore. So naturally, that's when it dropped. It started with a voicemail. Blocked number. Mr. Royce, this is Detective Marissa Klein with the Spokane Financial Crimes Division. We'd like to ask you a few questions about a recent fraud complaint tied to a joint account you once shared. Please return the call at your earliest convenience. I froze. Fraud? Complaint? I called back immediately. Detective Klein's voice was calm, professional. We've received a report from Camille Rhodes stating that you falsified bank documents to hide assets during your divorce. She's alleging intentional concealment of funds and forgery. I didn't even blink. Because I'd been expecting something. Just not this. I calmly explained the entire timeline to Detective Klein. The withdrawals Camille made. The screenshots. The email trails. The voice recording. Even the signed settlement Camille had agreed to under her own counsel's supervision. She was quiet for a moment. Then said, Mr. Royce, from what you're describing, and the documentation you're offering, this sounds less like fraud and more like a retaliatory complaint. But I'll still need to file a formal interview. Of course, I said. I wasn't scared. I was furious. Camille had lost the money. Lost the house. Lost the narrative. And now she was trying to claw her way back through the courts. She had nothing left to fight with, except lies. Jillian, my attorney, flew up to Missoula within 48 hours. We met in my garage while I wiped grease off my hands and she reviewed her notes. She's fishing, she said. Trying to scare you. Either to get a payout or reopen the divorce terms. Can she? Only if she can prove fraud or concealment, which she can't. Because we documented every damn thing. Still, the stress triggered something inside me. My vision blurred for a moment that night. My legs wobbled. I thought it was fatigue. It wasn't. The next morning I collapsed in my bathroom. Woke up in the hospital. Test results showed a temporary dip in white blood cell counts, likely chemo-related, aggravated by stress. The oncologist said I had to rest. Cut hours. Avoid stress. Which was ironic because my entire life had been a stress marathon lately. I was back in a bed I never wanted, hooked to N4 again, watching the ceiling fan spin. And all I could think about was Camille. Even after everything, she still had the power to hurt me. But only if I let her. Once I was discharged, I went straight to work. Not at the shop, but on my own defense. I compiled everything Camille had signed during the divorce. Dates, signatures, confirmations. Jillian sent a formal response to the Financial Crimes Division, attaching full documentation and requesting the case be dismissed for lack of merit. 2 weeks later, Detective Klein called again. Mr. Royce, I've reviewed your materials. There's no case here. We're closing the file. Is she being charged with filing a false report? Pause. No. But a warning has been issued. She'll be informed this won't be tolerated again. I hung up. Didn't smile. Didn't exhale. I just went outside and stood beneath the Montana sky, staring at the trees. And I realized something. Camille wasn't the villain anymore. She was just sad. Sad, bitter, and grasping at a version of herself she'd lost the second she chose to walk out that door. And I was finally free. That night, I found Vanessa's number again in my phone. I hadn't messaged her since the cafe. But I typed. You were right. She didn't just burn bridges. She burned everything. Vanessa responded instantly. And you're still standing. The last time Camille tried to reach me, it wasn't through lawyers or detectives. It was a letter. Handwritten. No return address. Just my name on the front in familiar cursive. Inside were 4 short paragraphs. I don't know if you'll read this. I wouldn't blame you if you didn't. I just wanted to say that I know now what I did to you can't be undone. I was scared, Caleb. Not of your illness, of what it made me see in myself. I wasn't the woman I thought I was. You didn't deserve to go through it alone. And I'll carry that guilt the rest of my life. I hope you're doing better. I hope you find someone who doesn't run when the sky falls. Someone who stays. I've started over in Seattle. Nothing fancy. I'm working temp jobs. Living in a studio apartment. I've lost a lot. Friends, family, respect. But I guess that's the cost of realizing too late who you really were. You don't need to forgive me. I'm not asking for that. Just live well. Live free. I folded the letter, placed it in the glove box of the Mustang, and never took it out again. Because some ghosts don't need burning. They just need to be put away. I kept living. Blood work improved. Hair returned, patchy but strong. I joined Joel's shop full-time, building custom rides for people who had no idea what I'd crawled through to get there. One day, a kid no older than 20 watched me fix a carburetor and said, "Man, I'd kill to have your life." I didn't laugh. I didn't correct him. Because maybe he was right. Not because it was perfect, but because it was earned. I eventually ran into Vanessa again, this time on purpose. We started talking more. Coffee turned into lunch. Lunch into dinner. She wasn't a replacement. She wasn't a rebound. She was just someone who saw the storm in me and didn't flinch. One night on my porch she asked, "Do you still hate her?" I thought about it. "No," I said. "But I remember everything." She nodded. "Good. That means you're still you." Camille never reached out again. The check cleared. The court records remained closed. And in every possible way that mattered, I won. Not with fire. Not with vengeance. But with survival. With truth. With still being here. Now, every morning I drive the Chevelle into town, windows down, music up. People smile. No one knows what I've been through. But I do. And that's enough. Because healing isn't forgetting. It's remembering who you became because of it. In the end, truth has a way of surfacing, even if it comes twisted through pain and betrayal. As one wise voice once said, sometimes your greatest enemy was once your closest ally. If this story struck a chord with you, let us know in the comments. And don't forget to subscribe, share, and spread the word, because justice deserves to be heard.